But here is one piece of advice for aspiring broadcasters. Now, like I mentioned, it's to be yourself. Always make sure that you have an opportunity. Make sure you get some of the things that you want to benefit, whatever it's play-by-play, whatever you're doing studio hosting, analyst work, sideline or ringside reporting. You always gotta be yourself, and it's okay, because being yourself is definitely one of the best things that you can ever do. It doesn't matter for who you are. It depends on who are you trying to do. Like, what are you trying to do, especially in sports broadcast. And that's the thing when it comes to sports broadcast. And you just gotta let the things out of your system there. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of Voker On Air, Voices of the Game. I am your host, Yohn Voker. It is great and honor to have you here, whatever you are tuning in. And it is an absolute honor to be part of this podcast, of this project that I've been doing it for the last few months. And I get to experience what is it like to be a part of this journey, because, ever since I wanted to do this podcast, I wanted to make sure that everything is definitely come to life, because, as a sports broadcaster, we work hard on so many things, but we wanted to know what is the information about all this. Now, every broadcaster has a story. The first game, the biggest break, the lessons learned, the unforgettable moment. This podcast is about sharing the stories about aspiring broadcasters, sports fans, and anyone who loves the craft of sports storytelling. I will be sitting down with play-by-play announcers, analysts, reporters, producers, directors, and sports media professionals from all across the industry to talk about what it's like to build a career behind the mic. So if you are in sports media or know someone with a story to telling, I would love to connect, because this podcast is dedicated to the people behind the microphone, and the new chapter starts now. Now, before we get to all the things as well, I think it's time we take a deep dive about what it's like being me as a sports broadcaster. So, in this video or in this podcast, I'm going to take you some deep dive about what's my life being like before every podcast or before every broadcast. What's my life like, like before I get into like sports broadcasting, and what can I look ahead towards the future of sports broadcasting. So make sure you guys tune in to the podcast, because we're going to be posting episodes every week, and I hope you'll get a chance to tune in. So I'm going to put me on the spot right now, and I hope you will get a chance to listen in. So let's listen in to me. Today, I am going to be talking about me. So I'm going to be putting myself on the spot to make sure how good that this podcast should really bring here. But before I tell you about all this, let me remind you guys that this is probably something that I have been working on for like the last few months, trying to see which of these things that I could do, which format that I could work on, and hopefully everything will definitely work on here as well. So it's it's a great honor to have this opportunity to be involved in sports broadcasting, because the last 5 years, what are some of the things that I have improved over these last 5 years, and what are some of the things that really stick out to me the most here. Throughout my broadcasting journey, I have gone through a whole lot of things that really could benefit for my sports broadcasting career that could really take things up to new heights. And it could be an absolute blessing, to say the least, that sports broadcasting is definitely a hard job in the industry. And it kind of really is, because for me, it doesn't matter where you are, it matters of what you can succeed for the future, like working for like major networks like ESPN or Fox Sports, all that. And that's the thing for me too, I wanted to realize there. So I want to introduce you to myself. I am Yohn Voker. I am the play-by-play broadcaster for Premier Media Group here in Michigan, where we does have two networks. One is the National Soccer Network, where I cover like most of the soccer matches, just like USL League Two, the League of Clubs, the WPSL, everything. And I also did some indoor soccer as well for MASL Third Division, and as you may know, and soccer was definitely my passion of the sport. And I did play goalkeeper back in high school back in the day, so that really works out for me. That definitely sticks out as well. You might know me from calling games from Oakland County Football Club during my intern session days. You might notice me as calling sports for Lawrence Tech University, where I only did not only soccer, but I also did basketball. I did a few lacrosse games during that time. And I did, like, at one time, I did a softball doubleheader here, there. And that was really, kind of an experience that you wanted to have. And it's not going to be easy. And also, let's not forget that I'm also the play by play voice is for a sports network called sportsnation.tv, where we cover like mainly hockey. I'm not sure what other sports are they're going to be doing there for the future for it, but I mainly called hockey. And recently I did hockey for peak performance prep hockey, which is like you kind of like have like prep students and hoping to like go up the ranks, probably towards like high school and then college. And hopefully we will get a chance to see peak performance prep hockey coming up like probably next month there. So you'll probably see me some of the action there as well. So where did my dream begin? So my dream began when I was like probably in like the teens, where usually back then I was trying to become a weatherman back in like the elementary school and trying to predict what the forecast is. Is there like rain or showers or storms coming out here? And you got like extreme weather going on, like hurricanes, tornadoes, and all that. And that was kind of like my main goal. And I listened to one of the weather broadcasters in Georgia at that time. And one time back in the fifth grade, we have a weather map for me where I get to predict a lot of things that has been going on, especially throughout the week and definitely in locally. Things were definitely working out very well, but then like after fifth grade, I was failing classes, and that was definitely tough. So that's why I had to go to summer school. So what happened was is that I wasn't paying as much classes that I wanted to have back in the fifth grade, and that's exactly why I have to go to summer school. But I did pass summer school, and I went on to go on to middle school there as well. I went to TAP Middle School back in Georgia. Shout out to them. And then I went on to a high school called McEachern, and I wanted to do something that really brings in the opportunities as well. So I went in to be a part of the McEachern boys soccer team. And for 2 years, I was a goalkeeper for McEachern because, usually it's probably the best position that I wanted to be a part of, but it's also the position that is probably the toughest position in soccer, which is goalkeeping, because I definitely love to embrace the feeling that you cannot go wrong. But I definitely want to be a part of the boys soccer team, and I've done that. And for 2 years, I was the backup goalkeeper for the JV team, which is the junior varsity, which means that usually it's second best to the varsity team, in my opinion. The one subject that I was struggling during my high school classes was biology, but I was struggling in there. I didn't fail though. I didn't fail. It was a struggle. So that's why I went to make sure that everything goes out really well. And then I finally passed that as well. And then up until then, by the time the start of the senior season, and my parents decided that we were going to be moving to Michigan and in Detroit because, back then my stepdad had a job back. So that's exactly where we at right now. And we've been staying here up until now. It's been what? Over a decade since we moved in here. And so it's kind of complicated. Trying to see where I could fit in there as well. Oh, there was a school, that I tend to go to, and that is Go Lightly, Training Institute. That's kind of one of the partnerships we had with East English Village at the first school that I went to for my junior year. And it was definitely good, to say the least. But the problem is that it was far out from where we live in. We first moved in to a house near downtown, and then after that we moved to a house at where we in right now on the George West side. And so this is where, you know definitely things definitely probably to know where things are going to be at, because things were definitely going out here and there. It's great to they have new beginnings, but sometimes it could be, in a tough stretch as well. So I went to Go Lightly. I did do TV and radio, as well, and that's probably something that really stick out to me, to be a part, in the TV, radio format. So we split time between Go Lightly and East English Village during my junior se- junior year, and it was definitely not a bad way to do the education there. So it really helps out for me to where things can really take me going. And then I went to high school for my senior season at University Prep. Graduated from there in June of 2014, and finally get to realize what's it like to have an experience as well. So probably where my dream began is definitely probably the start of TV and radio, be involved in Go Lightly there as well. So when I went to college, I first went to Henry Ford College. Um, it was not bad, to say the least, but things were definitely struggling there. So that's definitely the case. And, I had to, pay for financial aid, get the books ready, everything being settled. And that was definitely a good thing because, you wanted to like get ready and get going there here. And, we do have athletics, but, like we've been a part of the intramurals was there. Got to spend some time over there doing some basketball, shooting some hoops and everything. And just to take some free time and to go along there. And then things didn't work out as much as I wanted to. So that's why I had to drop out of Henry Ford. And then I went to WC3, which is Wayne Community College District. And hopefully work out there. I did study communications, though, by the way. Had to drop out as well. Then I went to like WC3. It was probably better than my time at Henry Ford because you get to because it's like closer to where I am right now, and they have like so many campuses around the Wayne County area, so it's definitely a good experience there. I did study like communications district there. I did attend like a summer class as well, but unfortunately I did not graduate there. So, and I was struggling trying to work like some main jobs. I was doing like restaurants and everything, and being a cashier, doing a whole lot of stuff there that would really gets me and my family going. And then the groundbreaking moment that I've had was going attending to Specs Howard School of Media Arts in Southfield, which is now Specs at LTU because they had a partnership with Lawrence Tech University, and that really worked out very well there. So I'm really glad to have to be a part of the partnership with Specs Howard because Specs Howard School of Media Arts is like a broadcasting school where you broadcast media arts. You do like TV, radio. You gotta like write scripts, film, edit everything in and out. And then by the time I got done with Specs Howard School of Media Arts, I had to like, send out resume, doing demo reels, everything. And I also wanted to do like sports. I love to like do sports because sports is kind of like a main thing as well. And that really stuck out to me. And then when we were in like the pandemic, we had Zoom and everything, hoping to like finish out our classes there. And we do have like online classes, get to write down everything that is like going on in each lecture. And I still have like some of the stuff from like Specs Howard, all my stuff written down there. And hopefully I can share with you through by the time we get through like the next few episodes of Voices of the Game as well. So, but this is definitely what I really love too, and that is being part of sports broadcasting there. So as well. So thank you, Specs Howard School of Media Arts, for giving me the opportunity to become a broadcaster and hopefully get to work things out here as well. My first broadcast, and I'll never forget that date. It was May 9th, 2021, and I was part of the intern at Oakland County Football Club, where I get to like probably do like some soccer games there as well. So my first broadcast was May 9th, 2021. It was Oakland County versus Fourth Wayne FC. Fourth Wayne at that time were a part of the USL ecosystem, but they also was a part of USL League One in the ecosystem. Um, both of these teams were representing in the Great Lakes Division. And so I was partnering up with Mitch Gasky at that time. Mitch Gasky, who is definitely a great guy to work with throughout my internship, and I'm glad that he's get to be a part of it as like right now. So we were streaming games like on YouTube at that time, and we were in Clawson Stadium, which is like definitely far out, about like 30 minutes from where I am right now, like 30-minute drive all the way to the Clarkson Stadium there. And I'll never forget that in that game there was a red card being shown, and that was from a vicious tackle. The other team, Fourth Wing, had to play a man down throughout the rest of the game, and the stream was like so bad that it had to be taken from a camera. So I had to call the first half action. Mitch had to call the second half action, and it was definitely perfectly fine right down the stretch. And you never know. Like the first broadcast is not going to be a good thing as well, and it's not going to be your best as well, because when it comes to being calling your first broadcast, whatever, if it's a voice or doing radio, it's not going to be as bad as it could be, but it's not going to be the best as well, because it's going to take some time to like make sure that everything goes on from there. So it really works out, because it definitely happens to be, in a process where things could definitely take shape, but also I could think about, what lies ahead and there as well. My biggest early challenge is to like never fear about what's going to happen. I definitely want to say this is that, you never know what's going to happen here on the field. But the biggest early challenge is to like don't mess this up. Don't mess things up, because you never know how bad it's going to be when you have your first broadcast. Like no matter, like if the rain comes down, or maybe something like stumbling your words or everything. But the biggest early challenge is to not mess up there. Because listen, at the end of the day, we are all human. We are all human, and we all gonna make mistakes. As a broadcaster myself, and also a human being, I'm gonna make mistakes. And I'm saying this because, many people who, want to get into broadcasting, want to make sure that the first lesson is that, to always be yourself, but never mess up. And don't forget to like make sure that you get as much information as possible. Because, whatever you're calling a game, you're doing sideline reporting, endless work, you always got to put in the best information as well. And that's exactly what I've done there. So that's one of the things that I wanted to do as a sports broadcaster, because that's the one thing that I wanted to put out there. And that is to make sure that you don't make some mistake. I mean, I know you're going to make some mistake, but don't mess up. And that's the key when it comes to being a sports broadcaster, is to always be yourself. All right. First paid opportunity is, of course, my time at Lawrence Tech University. So I've been calling like a few soccer games after my time in internship with Oakland County is done. And they paid me. So they paid me like at least like what, $50 a game to do so. And that's exactly what I've done. And so like I come out here I prep up, and we're gonna talk about preparation in just a moment there. But my first pay opportunity was, calling in a soccer game. It was August of 2021, the beginning of the start of the college soccer season. We were working with Yellow Flag Productions, also in Southfield, which they also covered, state champs and all the athletic sports of Lawrence Tech University. And, I got to be a part of, the journey to where it is right now with Lawrence Tech. Get to be a part of it for 3 years. And, this is something that I really love to have a great opportunity to just trying to see how things are going to go on from there. There was a JV team in college with something that I was not aware of in my process, but you got to admit that this is something that really takes shape. There's a game, and one time I did like call 2 games, and it was like $100. Here's an hour, so that really works out as well, and I'm really glad that I got my first paying opportunity to work for Lawrence Tech. All right, so let's go inside the booth. You tell me. So, how is my game day preparation goes? How my research process, the storytelling philosophy, all that. So, in terms of game day preparation and the research process, what I've done, like, when I call soccer, I go to whatever, if it's college or professional, I make sure I go to like the website, look at the rosters, here's what jersey number they're wearing, and I make sure that everything is written down there for sure. What college they went to, what kind of like like a best stat that they really had. Like let's just say like one player had scored like at least had three multi goal games in a season. And that's the thing about this. When it comes to, like research process, you got to know what player you're looking at, what position that they're playing for, how long did they play for, and especially in college as well. Bio, like what kind of achievements that they've done in college, what kind of achievement that they've done in high school. Well, and you don't have to like write down that much for sure. When I did prep uh, for like soccer, I make sure that everything goes out neatly. Just put down like at least a few things that could really good for my spotting board, and everything has been involved in my prep process since day one when I was a part of being working with Oakland County Football Club, working on my spotting boards just to see which team that they have, focusing on the teams as well, including the coaches and the staff. When I was with Lawrence Tech, when I was calling basketball, I had to make sure that everything works out. And also, you gotta like focus on, like what went down in the last game. Who were there playing at that time? How many points? How many rebounds, blocks, everything. And that's the same thing for or soccer, like how many minutes that they played on the field. Was it their start? Like how many start that they have? How many games played that they've been through? All of that's up. When I was calling USL League Two games, I had to put in, like as much information as possible, like what college that they went to, what kind of experience that they have in like the professional level. At the end of the day, you never know what information you're going to put in there, especially when you're about to call a game. Because by the time when you get done through, like the games, you got to know what's next. When I did, like a couple of softball games, I make sure I wrote down on as much information there. And now when I'm using spotting boards, I have to type out, everything that has been going on. It depends on how many games that you're covering. And so I love to like make sure that everything gets written down, make sure the players, the stats, and everything is definitely taken care of, and as well. So, working with analysts and producers is definitely one of the main things there. So, usually I love working with the analysts just because, they really helps you make sure like what's going on, especially when something happens, like when a goal is scored, you make sure what's happening on the play. Sometimes you just got to call solo. And working solo is not the easy thing, but working with analysts and producers is definitely the main thing because you got to get the broadcast going because you have to have an opportunity to make sure that the broadcast goes well very smoothly. And when I've done games for like Lawrence Tech University, I had an analyst that really works out. And one of the best things about doing Lawrence Tech games is that working with Jon Snow. And Jon Snow is not only he, an analyst, but he's also a play-by-play announcer as well. He's been calling like a lot of games, a lot more than I can imagine there. But working with Jon Snow was probably the best thing that I ever worked with back at Lawrence Tech University, and that definitely really brings in the opportunity of what's to come next for not only throughout the future broadcasts during my time at Lawrence Tech, but also what's to come for like the future of my broadcasting career. And that's definitely working out very well. And the philosophy of storytelling is that you got to make sure that everything goes right. What kind of things that a player has done, especially during the off season, because it really works out when you are trying to like write down storytelling and hoping to like make sure that everything that definitely gets done. One time I was calling a soccer game and I had to like tell everyone about what's the achievement like for like one of the players, and it was a women's soccer game as well, just to be specific. But there was one person that did like the work that she did and like hoping to try to become like a doctor, a medical team, but hopefully that was definitely work out for sure because hey, as a broadcaster, you just gotta have a lot of things written down. You gotta have a lot of stories that you can tell, and there are a lot of preparation that you can definitely work on here for sure. Calling the big moments and the mistakes and handling mistakes. So this is definitely one of the key things that I wanted to talk to you about, especially when you're inside of it. So when you're calling the big moments, you gotta make sure that everything is ready for you. You gotta make sure that what's on your mind is that if you're calling the big moment, you got to make sure you lay out everything. And the thing is about laying out is that you got to let the crowd, you got to let the players know the story, especially when you are on TV. And by the time a big moment comes, that's where you are at your best. And then you just got to lay it out. And that's exactly what I've done, especially from time to time. And, definitely works out in a good way because you want to make sure that things could really get onto you. And especially when you have, think about, like the final seconds of the game, a walk-off home run, a last minute goal or a stoppage time game winner or a penalty kick shootout win. That definitely gives you a big moment that could really set the tone for what's to come next. And you gotta lay out the action. I think I wrote down a post on X the other day is about the best thing about calling soccer is that once you call the big moment, all you gotta do is lay out. And that's a good thing for sure. But when it comes to handling mistakes, you just got you just got to make sure that everything goes out correctly, especially like, like doing injuries. Like, don't speculate the injuries. Apologies for the mistake that has been happening, and that's okay, because if you apologize for the mistake that is happening there, you want to make sure that everything is definitely smooth and goes to plan there. And like I said, don't speculate the injuries. So don't think about like, well, like say like this, like players, like is injured on a play, holding on to his right knee. Hey, but don't speculate what kind of injury it is. Like a torn ACL or something. That will probably let people know that they know exactly what's going on there for sure. So that's kind of tough, but it's also like something that could really benefit for what could happen here in the broadcast. And also, if you make a mistake, like during the broadcast, make sure you rewatch it, think about, like what's going to happen, and always make sure that you can get better during the broadcast. Always make sure you handle a mistake, and always make sure that you have to handle, like the injuries, everything. When it comes to making mistakes, it's tough. Okay, for sure. All right. And finally, it's time for my career defining moments here. One of my favorite broadcasts during that time was during my internship with Oakland County. And we were playing against Kalamazoo. And, Oakland County was probably like a solid team at that time. And it was in the rain. And good thing we were in the booth, that's for sure. But one of my favorite broadcasts was definitely calling, and it come from behind. Oakland County defeated Kalamazoo 3-2, and one of the goals were scored was by Mike Melorani, the big sexy man. So shout out to Mike Melorani. And also, let's not forget a game against the Dayton Dutch Lions. That was also one of my favorite broadcasts to call there. And one of the games that I called, there, one of the biggest moment was definitely Kevin Buka. Kevin Buka, who now probably in the professional ranks as well. Every chance that he took on, things hadn't gone their way, and then finally, boom, back in the net. He put up a goal in that game, and that was definitely a great opportunity, because you wanted to have a few chances there. When a player doesn't go your way, and you got to realize that, look, time will come. Time will come soon, and then finally the time will come soon. I think there was like a clip, like during my interview with Kevin Buka. So next up, my biggest moment, or my biggest event, I should say. So my biggest event was calling the quarterfinal game of the Denison Cup in prep performance hockey. I was calling the quarterfinal game between Team Royal and Team Red. I haven't called on hockey up until like last year, and so calling hockey was definitely like one of the biggest things that I wanted to achieve. And hockey is definitely a unique sport to call, because you never know what's going to happen on the ice. And players, like making line changes for sure, all that stuff. But, hopefully I might call like some more hockey games, and hopefully I could like raise up the ranks and probably call like the PWHL as well. which is definitely one of the biggest accomplishments that I definitely wanted to call there for sure. Now, next up is the toughest assignment. Now, the toughest assignment that I did was calling, a softball doubleheader, and that was my only time that I called softball because, listen, calling softball probably like the toughest thing you ever done, especially when you have like the equivalent of baseball. But calling softball was definitely the toughest assignment that I ever had because I had to know like the rules, the rosters, nine. But calling softball was definitely something that I would never imagine in calling this sport because you never know exactly how things are going to go around there in like the diamond. I remember I was calling like Lawrence Tech taking on I think it was Aquinas or maybe like some other team. I couldn't remember. But it was somewhere around in like 2022. And we had to go to Madonna University because at that time, Lawrence Tech did not have a baseball or a softball stadium. So they had to like go to like various, like stadiums around like the Oakland County area. Softball is definitely like, like a spring, summer sport. And good thing we got like professional softball with the AUSL. So hopefully, hopefully I could work on that as well. Probably like listening and watching some games there as well. Calling softball was definitely the only game that I ever called. And one time, there was a home run being called, and I said right field, but instead it went left. Oh man! But hey, sometimes when you work with your first broadcast, like I mentioned, it's not going to be your best, and you got like the funniest behind the scenes story. So like, so at one time we were calling in a soccer game, and like, so the funniest behind the scenes story is that everybody was cramped up, and like there was like heat going all along here, and everybody was like cramped up, and I was like, oh my goodness, like what is going on here? It was tough to like make sure that everything hopefully goes to plan and nothing much because you wanted to have a great opportunity, and we were like freezing in here, so we had to turn up the heat. So I was in the booth. I had my everything all planned out. Oh, and also, there was this one game that we could not see from the booth, and we didn't not have like a window. So I was calling a soccer game. It was raining, and we could not see, what's going on in the field. So we had somebody had to like wipe out the glass window, and we did not have the window being pulled up at that time, and it was tough to see, like what's going on. So we had to use like paper towels to like wipe out the glass and everything. But good thing is that we had like a monitor just to make sure that everything was a okay. All right, it is now time for my rapid fire. So it's going to be some quick questions that I wanted to let you know. So let's start the rapid fire. So the first one is favorite sport to call is definitely soccer. But my second sport will be basketball, and then the third one will be hockey because hey, I mean you gotta love three main sports, right? That's for sure. So the dream event. So my dream event is definitely gotta be the World Cup because the FIFA World Cup because we recently had the FIFA World Cup in North America. Dreaming being a commentator for the FIFA World Cup. It doesn't matter what network it is. It doesn't matter if it's on like the World Feed or anything. I just want to call it a World Cup. And I posted it on LinkedIn saying that, I want to like call a World Cup. It doesn't matter if it's men's, it doesn't matter if it's women's. World Cup is World Cup. And that's exactly what I wanted to be a part of as well. Favorite venue. So everyone gotta love a favorite venue there. And my favorite venue happens to be Madison Square Garden because it's a mecca. And you gotta love calling Madison Square Garden because it's like the world's famous arena in New York City. And it doesn't matter if you're calling, like a basketball game or if you're calling like a hockey game, where it's the Rangers. Madison Square Garden will always be the mecca, no doubt about it. So that's my dream venue to ever work on there, and I know it will probably come true there as well pretty soon. Favorite broadcaster? Oh man, so I got like so many favorite broadcasters that I definitely love to tune in. But my favorite broadcaster has got to be Kevin Harlan because Kevin Harlan has done like so many sports. He called basketball, doing the NBA, doing college basketball. He also does football for like the NFL, either on TV, with CBS, or on radio with Westwood One. He's calling like so many Super Bowls. And I could not be more happy about this. And also he's so enthusiastic, kind of like I am. And he's always definitely good at definitely what he does best. So that's definitely my favorite broadcaster. So Kevin Harlan, Sean McDonough, everyone, like everyone's got to have a favorite broadcaster. So, but my favorite broadcaster has got to go down to Kevin Harlan. So next one is coffee or energy drink. So basically, I'm like a coffee kind of guy, but I love to have energy drinks. So one of the energy drinks that I drink is Celsius. And the reason why Celsius is that it doesn't have like added sugar or anything, but it definitely worked out on here as well. But energy drink is definitely my pick on this. But coffee, I mean, I'm okay with coffee, but energy drink is kind of like the best thing there. But you don't want to like do it too much. I think Celsius will be like the best energy drink because it's also healthy as well. So home or road games, gotta go with home. And then the biggest pet peeve is that I always like get my groove on, like before the game. Like I always dance. I put on the music, get my groove on, just make sure that everything like everything like definitely goes out well. All right. So finally, last but not least, the advice for the next generation. Now, I'm 30 years old. I've been in broadcasting for like 5 years. So, I still got like long way to go. But here is one piece of advice for aspiring broadcasters. Now, like I mentioned, it's to be yourself. Always make sure that you have an opportunity. Make sure you get some of the things that you want to benefit, whether it's play by play, whatever you're doing, studio hosting, analyst work, sideline or ringside reporting. You always got to be yourself. And it's okay because being yourself is definitely one of the best things that you can ever do. It doesn't matter who you are. What are you trying to do, especially in sports broadcasting? And that's the thing when it comes to sports broadcasting. And you just gotta let the things out of your system there. Also, make sure you get some reps done. That's another advice I want to have for aspiring broadcaster. Always get some reps. If you're a play-by-play announcer, make sure you record, like something like on your phone or like record it on a computer, like watch like a full game, like pull out a game from like YouTube, get some reps going, like record a game. The biggest mistake that beginners make, people think that they want it to be like Kevin Harlan, like that. Don't be like Harlan. Just be yourself. If you make a mistake beginners make, and don't get nervous. Like, make sure you take a deep breath and just do what you gotta do, and make sure that everything goes out really well for sure. Now, best career lesson is to always show out, always make a connection to everyone, send out emails, make a message on LinkedIn and or on social media. The best career lesson is to always show out, always make sure you get advice, make sure you get there to the highest level, because that's exactly what I'm doing, is to like make connections with any broadcaster that you want to share with. Make an email, make sure it's professional. Also, a LinkedIn message there as well. So hopefully that will definitely work out here as well. And what's next for the guest? Well, as you may know, what's next for me? Well, I'm gonna continue like doing what I gotta do. Oh, and don't forget, always create a demo reel. Always create a demo reel to show out your work so far. Always make a portfolio website. Uh, like I'm currently working on my soccer demo reel, so make sure that's gonna come out very soon. And hopefully, I've like rewritten my resume, already put it out there. Working on my portfolio website, updating it as well. Well, there. So by the time we get to like the fall season, everything will definitely go out well. I will continue to do like some more content creation in there as well. I got like some video ideas listed out there as well. So hopefully, make sure you stick around, because we're gonna have a lot of fun here. If you guys wanted to follow me on social media, I am on Voker On Air on Instagram, and I am also on Voker On Air at Twitter or X. Yes, and folks, that is how my life goes there. So I've been putting on the spot, just let you know everything you know about me, and just to let you know that it's not too late to become a sports broadcaster. And it doesn't matter if you are in college or in high school, or maybe you're just looking away to like get the foot into the door. It's never too late to take these opportunities. So, like I said, I've been here in sports broadcasting for 5 years, and I love everything works on here for sure. So it will definitely be a opportunity, but it's also a blessing that I get to work a whole lot more. So it's all worth it as well there. So, but if you guys want to be a part of the guests of this show, make sure you connect me through LinkedIn, or make sure you email me at Yohn Voker at gmail.com, so that you can get to know everything about what's going on. Or let's not forget, make sure you DM me on LinkedIn, because I am open to all of your stories and everything that you need to know about yourself. And hopefully we will get you on this show. And I got a few guests that you will love to get to be a part of. And hopefully we will get to know more about each other, get to connect more about each other, and hopefully learn from the best. And hopefully I can get more involved in sports broadcasting as well. So thank you guys so much for being here on this very first episode of Voker On Air, Voices of the Game. I am your host, Yohn Voker. It has been an absolute honor to be here with you. And let's tune in next week for some more Voker On Air, Voices of the Game.